You're making the most important purchase of your entire life, yet there's no guidance out there for anyone. That's why I've created this video here, which is going to take you from A to Z and explain how to purchase your first home here in Kitchener-Waterloo. My name is Kevin Amorim. I am a real estate agent here within Kitchener-Waterloo, and I have been for over half a decade. Let's get right into the video. So the 4 steps before purchasing your first home, we're gonna look at the first one. It's gonna be building that foundation out. That's step 1. Step 2 is the actual search itself, what to look for when purchasing a property, setting up that initial search. Step 3 is gonna be crafting that offer. How do you submit an offer? What conditions should you include? And then step 4 is what happens between when you purchase a property and the closing date. There's that awkward period there of 30 to 45 days where there's really not that much going on. We'll cover that as well. Now the foundation, we're gonna cover 4 different things here. We're gonna look at the down payment, what are your options, and how that structure works out depending on the purchase price. Number 2 is the closing costs involved. So you have your down payment and other things. So we're gonna look at that. The 4 different programs that are available to first-time homebuyers and how to take advantage of them before you even buy. And then of course the mortgage pre-approval process, and look at what's better, a mortgage broker or a potential bank. So let's look at it right here. We're looking at an example of $650,000. For the purchase price, for the first $500,000, you will need a minimum of 5% down. From $500,000 to $1.5 million, you will need 10% down. Of course, you can put 20% down and avoid paying mortgage insurance. But let's take a look at a purchase price of $650,000 and look at the actual numbers. On the first $500,000, that will cost $25,000. On the remaining $150,000, that's going to be $10,000. So your total down payment will be $35,000. Now, when it comes to closing costs, you're gonna have what's known as the land transfer tax. Here in Kitchener-Waterloo, we pay only one land transfer tax, which is the provincial tax. If you are in the city of Toronto, you will pay what's known as a municipal tax, which you'll be paying double land transfer tax. Not sure why that is, why they decided to implement that there in Toronto. Apparently everything just costs more in Toronto. But let's take a look again at this example of $650,000. The tax on this will be $9,475. You do get a $4,000 rebate as a first-time buyer. Your total cost will be around $5,500. Another thing to note is having a home inspection, which I highly suggest doing when purchasing any home other than maybe a condo, is the home inspection, which is going to cost around $450 to $600 for the most part. In terms of a real estate lawyer, budget anywhere between $1,500 and $2,000. And then of course you have title insurance, which is going to be around that $700 to $900. In this case, probably around $700. Now let's look at the different down payment structures. So the biggest difference here is obviously down payment's going to be double. So for the most part, when I am working with clients, it's usually a couple looking to purchase their first home. So they both come in, they put 10% down each. I see this fairly often. And the biggest thing to note here is the PST on the mortgage insurance. That's going to be definitely your biggest difference in terms of cash needed on closing. You're going to be saving about $1,500 in this case. So there you have it on the screen. We have the 2 totals here, the cash needed to close for both an example at 10% down and 20% down. Now, the first program available to you, we went over it a little bit earlier, is the Ontario Land Transfer Tax rebate, and that's going to be up to $4,000. And I believe that applies to the first $385,000 to a property. So you will be getting the $4,000 back. Plus you'll have to pay a little bit extra depending, of course, on the purchase price. It's very simple to qualify. You have to be of at least 18 years old and have not purchased a property anywhere in the world. Now the home buyers plan lets you withdraw money from your RRSP up to $60,000. So as a couple, you'll be able to withdraw up to $120,000. You need to be, of course, a first-time home buyer to apply for this. If you use your home buyer's plan, you'll need to repay that money back into the RRSP over a 15-year period. This one though is my favorite. Finally, the government is doing something to help first-time homebuyers. This was introduced a few years ago now, and it's the FHSA. So it takes the best of an RRSP, the home buyer's plan, and the tax-free savings account, and what's known as the first-time home buyer's savings account. So you're able to contribute up to $8,000 per year. With a couple, that's $16,000. And this is, of course, tax deductible. So if you make $70,000, for example, your taxable income goes from $70,000 to $62,000, saving you quite a bit of money on tax. And then, of course, within this account, that money grows tax free. Now, the homebuyer tax credit, this one is often overlooked. Don't really hear too many people talk about it whatsoever. Again, you need to be a first-time homebuyer to apply it or have not purchased the home within the last 4 years. And this is a one-time federal tax credit. The amount you can claim toward a qualifying home purchase is up to $10,000. So that translates at the lowest tax bracket, a savings of $1,500. So the pre-approval process. So before you even think about purchasing a home, you're going to want to get in contact with, I would suggest, both of these options here, a mortgage broker and the bank. So let's look at the mortgage broker side. And we're seeing a lot more people go the lending route with a mortgage broker as opposed to a bank. The reason being is the multitude of different options and the flexibility that you get when using a mortgage broker. Also, with a mortgage broker, most of the time they'll be able to match what the banks are offering. In terms of the banks, definitely go there and get pre-approved for a mortgage. There's nothing wrong with that. I would go to both, suggest going to both and having that conversation. Now, whether you should go for a variable or fixed mortgage, your mortgage broker will be able to explain that more thoroughly and give you better guidance. For the most part, variable rates are going to be better in the long term, but there are certain times in which a fixed rate is better, like we saw in 2021, where yeah, you definitely should have taken a 5-year fixed at 1.45%. or 1.8%, depending where you are, because now we're in the 4s. Step 2 here is the actual property hunt itself. Now let's look at the price differences between a townhome and detached home. Let's look at 2 different properties here, both built by the same builder. We're gonna look at 27 Benninger Drive in Kitchener, Ontario. So this right here is a condo townhome, brick from the outside. It has 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 1,482 square feet above grade. It's an absolutely beautiful home in a great neighborhood. So this one, the asking price is $700,000. Now let's look at a detached option. Again, brand new home, $760,000. Again in Kitchener, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 1,440 square feet. So in terms of square footage, nearly identical. And this one is a detached home, right? So you're not going to be paying condo fees whatsoever. Now let's look at the monthly cost compared to this condo townhome in a detached home. So again, we have the asking price of $700,000 compared to $760,000. You got your down payments here. Of course, you're going to be paying a little bit more on the down payment side when it comes to this property. For this example, I used a down payment of 20%. Mortgage payment on the condo townhome is going to be around $2,663 per month. On the other side, it's $2,891. Now, the biggest difference here is the condo fees. That condo townhome, again, same builder. This is $310 per month. And of course, on the detached side, no condo fees. Property taxes are yet to be assessed on these properties as they are brand new homes, but I did look at similar type of properties within that same neighborhood. And for a condo townhome, we're looking at around $325. And for the detached side, I'm being very conservative with this number here of $400 per month. I think I could have written in $380, but for this example, we did $400. And at the end of the day, you are saving $7 a month purchasing a detached home compared to a condo townhome. And not to mention, when it comes to condo fees, that is gone. That's out the window each and every month. When it comes to your mortgage payment, with every subsequent mortgage payment, more and more of that money is going to be applied to the principal. So that's going back into your pocket. Now let's get into the best 5 neighborhoods here within Kitchener-Waterloo. So what makes up a great neighborhood for first-time buyer? So it's going to be, what are the schools available in the area? Are they any good? The parks and communities within that area, the crime rates, the income, and of course the fifth one here is, can you find a home, a detached house, under $750,000 within that neighborhood? So let's get right into it here. We're gonna pull up a map. And the first one we're going to look at here is Heritage Park. Heritage Park is going to be located on the eastern side of the city. And what I really like about this one is the location. So you're close to Highway 7. You have 1, 2 entrances and exits. You have a beautiful Stanley Park conservation area, which runs right through the center of the neighborhood. For the most part, the schools within this neighborhood are fairly good. They're going to be around that 6 to 7 rating. And of course, in terms of the property prices in here, we're looking high 600s to low 700s for a detached house. And of course, the benefit of an older neighborhood like this, built primarily in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, is you're gonna have wider lots than you'd find in a new construction area. And it's definitely an established neighborhood. Now the second one here, this is gonna be the sister to Heritage Park. That's gonna be Rosemount. And that's gonna be just located west. And I would rate this slightly better than Heritage Park. The reason being is better connectivity to the highway. So one entrance here. And there is a little bit less multifamily within this area. So more of a family friendly neighborhood, slightly better than Heritage Park. Heritage Park, still a great neighborhood, but I would rate Rosemount a little bit better. They also have a French immersion school, École David Saint-Jacques, and of course the benefit of Stanley Park Conservation Area. And when it comes to specific streets within this location to look at, to really target if you were looking at these two neighborhoods, is Manchester Road, which runs right along Stanley Park Conservation Area, Hallowell Drive, which again runs right beside Stanley Park, and then of course Carson Drive here on the western side. Moving on to the third one here, let's go to Forest Heights. We'll zoom out here. I'll show you where it is relative to the city of Kitchener and to the city of Waterloo. Forest Heights is going to be on the western side of the city. There is a lot of forestry in this neighborhood, hence the name. Looking at the map here, again, great connectivity. You're right on Highway 8. The schools in this neighborhood are going to be between that 7 to 8 as per the Fraser Institute. Looking at the map itself, you have the Superstore up here in the north, or Highland Hills Mall. And primarily within this area, we're looking at homes built within the 1980s. So you're getting a lot of great builds, a lot of variation between the different housing structures, unlike the new housing here where it's just your standard detached 2-story homes, and they're trying to maximize as much profit from the lot. For the most part, right? We're trying to build the biggest house property on the smallest parcel of land, which wasn't the case back in the 1980s. So you're going to find houses here that are on 40 to 50 foot wide lots, for example. And in terms of pricing, you can find smaller detached homes within this neighborhood, sub 750. You're also going to find homes here in the 8s, 9s, and even $1 million, depending, of course, on the size of the property and the location and street of that property. Moving on to the fifth one here, that's gonna be Westvale, which is gonna be just north of Forest Heights. Now, one thing to note in general in Kitchener and Waterloo is the plethora of different grocery options, which I don't really find in many other cities within Ontario. When it comes to Westvale in general, we have a Zehrs here in the north side. We have a Costco here on the western side. We have a Walmart here right beside Winners, and a Sobeys here just down the street, all within a 3 to 4 minute drive. So you definitely have a large variety of different grocery stores. When it comes to Westvale itself, it's going to be a little bit newer than the other neighborhoods we've spoken about. This one, for the most part, is going to be beginning in the mid 1990s up to about the early 2000s. So again, 40-foot wide lots, detached homes. You can find homes that are sub 750 within this neighborhood that are detached, in fact. And in terms of the shopping options, I think that's what really separates Westvale from the other ones is we have the Boardwalk. The Boardwalk is one of the largest shopping areas, not only within Kitchener-Waterloo, but actually within Ontario itself. It runs nearly a kilometer long. You have Movati Athletic excellent gym there. You have Walmart, Marshalls, Winners, Staples, the list goes on. All of your daily conveniences can be met just a stone's throw away and within walking distance of Westvale. Moving on to arguably the best neighborhood here, and I think the best value for money for any first-time home buyer looking to raise a family, that's gonna be Laurelwood. Now, Laurelwood is located in Waterloo. It's the only neighborhood here that I'm highlighting in Waterloo. It's gonna be sub 750. It's very hard to come by, but I've included this one just because it's such a fantastic neighborhood to highlight. There are sub 750 detached homes within here. They're really hard to find, but if you do work with me, we'll be patient and we'll find something within that 750 zone or sub 800. So what makes Laurelwood the best neighborhood here? Well, you do have the best schools, not only within Waterloo, but the entire region itself. Most schools within this neighborhood are going to be rated 9 or higher as per the Fraser Institute. So we're talking the best schools, maybe arguably within Ontario in this neighborhood. Laurelwood Public School, for example, I believe has either a 9 or 9.3 rating. Also, you are close to the Laurel Creek Conservation Area, the only conservation area here within the city of Waterloo. So it's an absolute beautiful area to spend some time, go on your nightly walks. And that's one benefit you really can't say about any other neighborhood here within Kitchener-Waterloo. Also, you're close enough to the universities of Waterloo. Hop on a bus, you're 5 to 10 minutes away. You're close enough to even walk. So this neighborhood here, you can definitely purchase, let's say at 30 years old, 28, 35, live there, start a family, and you could potentially live there your whole life. There's enough conveniences. You're close to Costco. I can't talk more highly enough than Laurelwood. So that rounds out the 5 best neighborhoods in Kitchener-Waterloo. Now, one thing to do when looking at homes is, before we even start looking at them, is let's do the reverse search. So that's a list of properties that match your criteria. So let's say your criteria is up to $750,000, detached homes with a single car garage. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is send you over the inventory that has sold within the last 60 days that matches your criteria. And from there, you're going to highlight the 10 best properties that had that property been available to purchase when looking at it, and you're going to pick the 10 best properties out of that list. So what this does, it helps me identify what exactly you're looking for and what you're not looking for, and you get a better understanding of the market itself. So within this market right now in Kitchener-Waterloo, we see homes that are being offered for sale using a pricing technique, which is the offer review date, where they're purposely priced lower than the market value in order to get really a quicker sale and to get more than the list price itself. And then you have the traditional way of doing things where the list price is literally what the seller is looking to get for the property. Now, crafting the offer. One thing before you even write the offer is, what market are you actually in? So let's look at some statistics here and go over that. Let's figure out what market are you actually in. So as you can see, this is a chart over the last 5 years. This is what's known as the days on market. The shorter the amount of days on market, the more aggressive and the more favorable that is to sellers and less favorable to buyers. The more days on market that we see, the less competition that we have, the more favorable it is to buyers. And as you can see, as a general trend, back in 2021 and early 2022, we did see, hey, average days on market was 7-8 days. Things were selling within 24 hours, within hours, in fact. And now the market's different. It's 45 days, which probably is going to be the highest amount we're going to see, as December is typically the slowest month of the year and the least competitive month of the year in terms of supply. If we look in general, there's a way of looking at the market and determining what market you are in. A buyer's market is 6 months plus of inventory. A balanced market is 3 to 6 months. And a seller's market is 0 to 3 months. And another thing we have to note too is the percent of original list price. So if we look at the month of December 2025, it was 98.3. And this statistic is somewhat misleading because again, we do have properties on the market which are holding offers, which they do in fact obtain a price higher than the list price, which is created a little bit artificially low, created under market value to get potentially a quicker sale and to get firmer offers. It's a way of marketing the property differently when it comes to the seller side. So this stat, when it comes to a traditional property being listed, where there's no offer date, you can submit an offer at any time, we're looking at probably between 4 and 5% off of list price. And in most cases, you're not going to be getting hundreds of thousands of dollars off of list price, but every property is different, every listing is different. So writing the offer itself, we're going to go through the 5 main things to look at when writing the offer. Of course, the purchase price, what are you willing to pay for the property? What market are you in? How to determine that? And we can go into further in depth when actually purchasing a property because there are many variables to look at when making an offer. And then of course, number 2 is the closing date. I would suggest, if you can, matching the closing date with the seller's closing date, what makes most sense to them. If you're able to match that, that is going to greatly benefit to you. And then the 3 conditions you should definitely put in your offer, or highly suggest putting in your offer. The first one here is financing. So yes, we did get you pre-approved for set amount of money, 800,000, 700,000, whatever the case may be, but we have to get the property approved as well. And for the most part, this isn't really a problem for most properties. But one thing to highlight here is the property has to be habitable. So there has to be a functional kitchen, there has to be running water, there has to be a bathroom. So as a first-time buyer, you're probably not looking for a house that needs substantial renovation, substantial amount of work. And typically that clause is written on 5 business days. So you'll have 5 business days to arrange that. And then at the same time, you're gonna wanna book an inspection on the property. And typically this is gonna be between $400 and $600, budget for $500 for the most part. And this is typically 3 hours long, and they're gonna go through the entire house and tell you, hey, some of the problems, if not most of the problems with the house. And thirdly, when it comes to condos in particular, you're gonna want to order and review a status certificate. A status certificate is anywhere between 200 and 250 page long document, which contains the rules, and more importantly, contains the financial status of that condo corporation. So it answers things like, is the owner behind on payments to the condo corporation? Is it in financial good standing? What is the reserve fund? Do they have money if the roofs on all of the townhomes need to be done? Do they have money for the windows that are going to have to be done 15 to 20 years from now? Same with the roof. All of these will be answered within the status certificate. And another big thing too is, are the condo fees likely to go up judging by the status certificate? And who is reviewing this with you? That is going to be your real estate lawyer. And legally, they're the only person that should be reviewing the status certificate with you and giving you feedback on it. The real estate agent should not be doing that. They're not legally supposed to do that. And of course, you should be reviewing the status certificate as well. Now we have firmed up on the property. We have submitted the deposit. What is left to do? Well, there's 2 to 3 more visits to the property. And what we're gonna do at this visit is probably measurements, figure out, hey, do we wanna replace the flooring in the kitchen and the bathroom? How much square footage is it? What kind of paint color should we choose for the walls? Maybe take some measurements and figure out where furniture is going to go on the property. It's typically what those visits are for. And then we are going to have a final walkthrough. And this is typically done between 12 to 48 hours before closing on the property. With this, we're gonna go through the property and we're gonna make sure that everything listed within the agreement of purchase and sale is included in the house itself, and that everything is functioning properly as per the agreement of purchase and sale, right? We don't want to close on a property and the furnace stopped working 72 hours before closing. So we want to get as close to closing as possible. And then in terms of what you should expect for closing date is closings typically happen between 12 and 5 p.m. It's very rare to have a closing before morning. And what will happen is the keys are usually left in the lockbox. The lawyer will send you a code at that time. You'll be able to go to the lockbox itself, pick up the keys, and boom, it's your new house. Within that time as well, you have time to arrange for home insurance and setting up that utilities. So I hope you enjoyed this video. You got a ton of value